We're back, and you're with Villaincast, BJJ Antiheroes, with myself, Chris the Villain Paynes. Weekly podcasts featuring either my fellow black belt, Naki Arshed, on our show Reap the Week, or compelling interviews with other personalities across Jiu-Jitsu. But before we jump into this next show, a thank you to our Patreon subscribers. If you'd like to receive these episodes one day early, along with exclusive video content and online coaching, you can find out more via chrispaynesbjj.com or join our Discord channel to put your ideas through for future episode discussions. For now, though, Rob Cole. Hello, sir.
Hey, Chris. How you doing? Good.
I would say thank you for staying up late to talk to me, but it's not late for you.
No.
I need to stop befriending Americans. Maybe I should talk to people in my own country.
You probably did. You run them all off already? Now you're going to the States to get people that still like you.
Yeah, exactly. No one in England likes me, so I guess it's over here then. So last time we spoke was just before Maine, the Globetrotters camp. That was a month ago?
Yep.
6 weeks ago. It's been that long.
Yeah. What was it? End of May 30th or something like that.
So yeah, it has been almost like 5 weeks. That's insane.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel a lot has changed since then. I know you've been really running on this ecological approach since the last time we talked. So how have things changed for you? How did things change? Did anything change at the camp, or what has changed since our last conversation?
A lot. I think the camp was really, really helpful for this type of stuff because, like I said, I was going to do an ecological approach to leg locks with a camp of a whole bunch of people. And when I went into it, I'm like, okay, this is either going to go really well or it's going to go really bad. So I decided to, go with it anyway. I'm one of the more newer coaches there. So it's like, I don't have, I can't just throw out any idea and be like, hey, this is awesome. I think about things. I'm like trying to worry about, how's this going to come off? And I'm like, but I like to challenge myself. So let me just try it with a bunch of people, throw out leg locks in the ecological way, tell them they're not learning any technique, whatever that word is. And let's just see how it goes. And after about the I started thinking, man, this is going to go really bad, because I was training with my buddy a week before and I was just kind of going over how I was going to teach. And he was like, so this is what you're going to show him? I'm like, you were no help. You actually made me feel worse how this is going to go. And I go, you're a purple belt. And you're already like, what's going on? So as soon as the class started and about 5 minutes in, I'm like, all right, this is going to go really well. Once we started doing stuff and I'm like, all right, this is going really well. There was had to be over 60 people. I still put it as intermediate just so it would be a little smaller and I wouldn't just have people with like one day, and I know I don't really I don't think anything's intermediate or advanced anyway, but I did it just for the people showing up, just to see. But I said beforehand, hey, it's very beginner friendly. So, let's just see how this works. And it went really well. I just taught, I did a lot more talking than I usually would in a class, because it is a seminar. People want to hear you a little bit. You can't just be like, hey, do this. Go play. They're recording it. So you kind of want to, you want to talk about the ideas. And, I talked a little bit about the approach, the training methodology, and how it's going to go. And so we just started and we just kept building on the games, 1 or 2 tasks per thing. And I got so much positive feedback from it, and I was really happy about that. Like, not even just after the class, like the next day, just walking to lunch, and some lady came up to me and she's like, hey, I escaped a heel hook and I've never trained leg locks in my life. And I'm like, all right, there you go. That's what I want to see, because I want to see that transfer. That's like a thing I've been thinking about. I was just out in my backyard working out today, thinking about the interview, and I'm like, I want to bring up transfer, because I think that's when we start talking about learning and technique and all that. We're really trying to take what we know or what Jiu-Jitsu knows and transfer. How do you transfer it to somebody else? And I think for coaches, a lot of times over the years, I've heard you talk about it, you just kind of want to take what you know and be like, all right, this is what I know. I'm going to give it to you. And now you're going to go do it. But we know you're not, the person you're teaching is not built like us. They don't have the
Yeah.
training we have. They don't have the size, like to you, I'm 5 foot nothing, 100 and nothing, and to a teen, I'm like the end final boss, I'm much bigger. So how do I train two different people, two different whatever, and, show them something that they could take and it actually transfers to them? So I think when we stick with this whole concept thing and this ecological approach or games or whatever you want to call anything, I think I'm looking for that to transfer. So when I hear people go, hey, I'm already escaping heel hooks after, I probably talked for a good 20, 30 minutes of the hour. So they probably played for about a half hour. And if they're already getting transfer for that, I know I'm on the right path. So that was a real positive experience for me because I seen it with people I've never trained with before, the majority of them. I took a fellow black belt, Aaron, who is not a big leg lock guy, and I even said, hey, I wanted you to use you so we could see, because you're going to be my training partner here. Can we do this without somebody who already knows what I'm going to do and whatever? I just wanted to be a pure, just this is what I'm putting out there. Let's see if it works. And we just kept building on it, and I got great positive feedback all throughout the camp, people coming up to me, and I was really excited about it. So that went great. It just made me keep going like, all right, I'm on the right path,
So how would you describe what you did then? How did you teach heel hooks in a ecological way?
So I think, and you would probably agree because we're from the defensive jiu-jitsu background.
Yeah.
I don't even like to say I teach defensive jiu-jitsu as much as I like to teach first from a defensive perspective. Because if you teach from a defensive perspective first, and if the defensive player knows what to do first, then the offensive player has to adjust. So now the offense will pick up to the defense, where traditionally we show a lot of offensive-based stuff, and the defensive guy just has to survive or just kind of power through, and that doesn't really work in my opinion as well. So what I did is I started the way I've taught leg locks this way, the ecological approach. I've done it with my gi friends who are, wanted to learn it, and I took the same approach. And this is something I was doing before I even got into all the reading and all the stuff. So I kind of stumbled upon this. So what I did is I started them out in the saddle, full saddle, with the secondary leg. So you're in the worst possible spot you should be. So I gave the defensive person the task of all you're going to do is hide your heel. You're going to point your toe, hide your heel, and just do that. And try to work out of this position with your hands. You're not going to hand fight and try to stop them from heel hooking you. You're just going to defend and hide your heel. And now the offensive person, try to hold that saddle. Don't let them escape. Just don't let them escape. And then when you feel they're escaping, just try to reach for a grip and just keep hiding that heel until you get caught or until they break it. Just something super basic. 1 or 2 tasks for each person. So now they're already hiding their heel. They know their job. So they have a heel, hiding their heel on their bottom foot, and the one that's in the ankle lock grip is the boot. So they're learning both defenses. Point your toes and the boot. You're kind of battling against both of the primary attacks from the saddle. So now the next game that's very quick. You could play that, super fast. You're just defending. You're just trying to hold. That's all you do. That's what you should do from any guard, any position. Learn how to hold it first. Because if you can't hold it, like I think you talk about it a lot, great leg lockers have that bite, right? They got your hip, and you're not getting away. And so why drill a bunch of heel hook reps of all these positions if you never even know how to hold the end game position? So we'll start from the end game, and we'll work back. And I explained to them, I said, I don't know who said this. I don't know if I came up with this analogy or I probably heard it through all my listening. It's kind of like the cheat code of, you probably said it, who knows? If you do puzzles backwards, if you start from the end point of a puzzle and you go backwards, it's usually easier to get out than going from the start because there's less obstacles in the way. So I thought that was a great analogy for working backwards. So now I take it from there, and then now I say, okay, hold that position as long as you can, and now just look for just a regular false grip. We're not ripping off heel hooks in seminar because that's not important at this point. You could train the details on your own time. So now they're actually playing the game. Full saddle. When you feel like you've got control of the hip, now you reach for the hook and they keep hiding their heel and they spin out. Post, spin out, and just keep doing that. So now we had that stage. That's another game. And then for fun, I threw in, let's start from 90-10 or outside Senkaku, whatever you want to call it, which is a 50-50 with the leg across, and you got your knee line free. It's the same defense. It's the exact same defense. You have to get it, but now since you're in the 90-10, you can rotate around the hip and expose the heel more. Saddle offers you more control. 90-10 gives you more heel exposure. So now they're defending off that. And all they're doing is still hiding their heel because that's all you need to learn at first. There's no point in battling heel hooks if every time you get caught, you're done. Or your heel's just hanging out there like a loose tooth and they just catch it every time, right? Defend first and go from there. And then we backed it up more. And then we went to like the butt scoot where you're both sitting holding each other's ankles. And then that's where I grabbed your inspiration from too. I said, all right, we're going to have a new game. You're going to look for the position, but the other person both people try to stand up when you can. So now they have to control the bottom leg and they have to look for an entanglement. We just kind of kept building and building from there. And everybody's just scrapping, moving around, playing in the game, and they're in the fire. And they knew they weren't going to get their knee torn off because they weren't playing for that. So, because you don't have to. Once you're caught, you're caught. We don't have to worry about fighting off heel hooks at this point. So we just kept playing these different games like that, and it was fun. Everybody, these are, 20, 30, 40-year-old people, just having fun playing leg locks. And I was just like, all right, this is great. And then you hear, all right, I'm already defending them. I'm already using this knowledge. And I'm like, all right, this is great. So that's pretty much how the class went. There was a bunch of little games here and there, but there was only 1 or 2 tasks per game. Generally, hide your heel and look to control. One person's looking to control, one person looking to hide. And then you just go back and forth with that. And then you just keep integrating more complex games after you build up that base defensive knowledge. So that's pretty much how it went. And that's how I've always kind of been teaching heel hook for the last 2 years with people,
Weirdly enough, like I said, when I went to one of Danaher's seminars probably about 6-7 years ago, and I went to one of Craig Jones's seminars probably roughly 5-6 years ago as well. Oh, by the way, has your camera just turned off?
No, not that I know.
Okay,
of. I can still see.
Must be
Are you there?
Yeah, it must be an internet thing. Oh well, I can still hear you.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway, so weirdly, even in the seminar that I went to of Danaher's years and years and years ago, one of the things they did was like you would it was for the outside heel hook, so you'd expose the heel off a ashi, and you're back, and then you'd have to latch onto the person's leg as they try to escape to try and get the best bite. So you wouldn't be using your hands; you'd just be using your legs to like control the hip and the knee. I think, and then the other person had to try and like pull their leg free, but not if you pull it too aggressively, then drills over, restart. So it's always finding that kind of sweet spot.
Yep.
And then, funny enough, pretty much exactly what you just described, Craig Jones did for a inside heel hook seminar.
Oh, nice.
Where you had to point your toes and hide your heel before the heel hooker could grab your heel. And the second they grab your heel and like caught it, game was over. You tap. And so it's funny that like again, like the way you're describing training heel hooks, these guys have been doing for years. And you think, again, we've been missing a trick, I think, and wondering why sometimes progress can be slow, and it's like, good training does keep hitting the same points. So the fact that you're just doing this, even without going to those seminars, you're hitting the same beats. It's like, oh, that's interesting. Like, both these guys are talking about hip, controlling the leg thoroughly and creating games to control the leg, even in seminar form, and spending a long time just on that part of it, not necessarily the breaking mechanics, but on the control aspect. That's probably one of the first parts that made me think, like, it's like you said, like it's not what your hands are doing, it's what your legs are doing. It's like how much the control can you keep.
Yeah.
I think one of the good points you also raised there, seminars a bit different, is that one thing that my current thing is like looking at jiu-jitsu a lot more objectively, and looking at things and going, that makes no sense. Why we're doing that? And one thing that I've really started to realize as well is getting not bored, but feeling I have to demonstrate my worth by changing up the drill regularly instead of just allowing people to do their thing. Like, if I've got an hour, I may change the drill 3 or 4 times just because it was the warm up, 3 techniques and a soda kind of style of jiu-jitsu, still kind of hangover. I got rid of the warm up, but still like it'd be a new aspect of the technique, every now and then. Now I pretty much show just one thing and then just leave it. Anything. So I just leave the group to it. I'll go get a coffee and just watch. But it's because it's looking at the idea of, if you set someone like 5 minutes on the clock or even 10 minutes on the clock, like, you name me anything you can learn in 5 minutes. So it's easy, I think, to, especially as a coach, to feel like you have to keep jumping in and giving new information and showing your worth. And so I'm just going, you know what? This is going to take time. Just enjoy. I'm
seeing that. I'm seeing that a lot too, where it's like you want to jump in, you want to change things. You're like, these people are coming in, and you want to show your new technique and your this and that, and it's like, and I was thinking about this today, and I'm like, we probably all felt it, where like you teach something and you watch the crowd, you watch the side, and you see the blue belt, the purple belt, and they just kind of stop drilling in the old days because they're like, well, I got it. And you're like, well, do you really have it? And guess what? They kind of do, because in that drilling format, they have it. So what are you going to show now? So, which is funny, because when I do this leg lock stuff, one of the things I first started thinking when I was trying, I was like, well, how do I show entries? Where's all the, that's a big thing. Where are my entries? Where are my entries? Guess what? When you keep backing it up, those entries emerge themselves. That you watch it and you go. And then when I was playing that game where we're double ankle or whatever, De La Hiva sitting butt scoot, now we're both looking for entries, which are real, not that great at context because you're kind of just doing a double butt scoot. But if both are looking to actively get up, and as you're getting up and you're going to lose that game, you're going to attach to that leg any way you can. And you're going to come up with some entries, because those are the real entries, the ones in live training. Those are the entries you come up with. And it was funny because I'm like, okay, so how do we teach advanced techniques? Like the false reap is considered a advanced technique, right? You would never be like, let me show you a false reap as a basic level or whatever. That's just not happening. If you had a classic Globetrotters, you wouldn't title it beginner. Well, maybe you would, just to mess with them. So no. So anyway, so I've been playing with it, and my buddy, this other guy I train with, he's doing way more leg locks now because we've been teaching him this leg lock stuff, and he used to just be a smash passer, pressure, which is great, but he wants that leg lock ability also. And he's like, well, why don't we do the false reap? I go, all right. I go, this is how we're going to do the false reap. We're going to put you in the false reap. The whole thing, no setup, no entry, no whatever. You're just going to start. You're going to have your arm laced through. You're going to hold it tight, and your leg's going to be over. And now, go. And all you need to do is you need to get your bottom leg to go behind the other person's leg. How are you going to do that? You're going to push off your toes. You're going to post on your shoulder. If you just get smashed, the false reap, it's not going to work for you when you're learning it. So just
Yeah.
put yourself in those things, fail, and figure it out. And he started throwing out false reaps already when we went live sparring. And it's like, okay, something's there. You know, there was no drilling. There was no 8 steps to get to the false reap. There was just, because as people start trying to unwind your entanglements, you put those back in, right? So if they're naturally trying to unwind you, you're trying to put them back in or go back to where you were. So there's your entries. Your entries will emerge out of that. That's kind of what I've been playing with on there for stuff like that. You know, where I feel like I don't have to teach a bunch of techniques to get there. You're going to kind of get there on your own if you know where you have to go.
Yeah, exactly. Completely like working backwards and I mean, the way I used to describe it was, you know, you'd have your braking mechanics, which, and Lachlan Giles said this really well. I think one of his little Instagram videos is we don't ever break bones. So I think braking mechanics are a poor choice. It's more ripping mechanics of like ligaments,
Yes.
unless you are intending to break like the forearm.
Yeah.
But then, so you've got your braking mechanics. Understand what it is you're actually trying to destroy, and then what is the position that allows that, like spiderweb or ashi or sankaku or whatever, and that usually involves controlling that core joint, the one that's nearest to their torso. As soon as you've identified that and you've spent time working on how, I think one of the bigger points there as well, and this is an interesting one when it comes to drilling, is what you do is only going to work against that person that you're currently with. And so the second you choose someone new, especially when it comes to leg locks, you've got long legs, you know, tree trunks and scrawny legs, etc. How you hold that leg's going to be different, but you setting into your head that you need to hold the leg, and so that's an interesting outcome of making it a game, as in you need to control the leg. I'm not going to really tell you how, you just need to control the leg. And as soon as you've identified that as your minor control position, then it's finding your way to it from a major control situation, guard, top position, whatever. And then your transition between the major and the minor is pretty much where normal jiu-jitsu kind of lives, but as an infinite process. And as long as you know where you want to go, you can normally, the only limit is your inventiveness and your imagination, and you can find your way there in an infinite number of ways that we can't teach, we can't drill, and are so appropriate to the chaos that person is in at that point in time. And I think the like I said, the bigger point that you're getting to, I think, is giving people the space to teach themselves and understand the concepts. Like I say, try and transfer our understanding into their head instead of just a carbon copy of like, just do what, you know, here's a guide. I think one of the ways I've been explaining it recently is via the idea of video games, of which seems kind of appropriate that it's kind of behind me right now. If anyone can see on the video, I've just got like really old consoles next to my arm. Is that you are being taught the game via mechanics in the game. The enemies line up with the mechanics to help teach you the mechanics of your protagonist. And it's either, you know, that's a certain level of, I said on the Bianaki podcast as well, that's the complexity. The intensity can change, but the mechanics kind of stay the same. And then I know a boss fight will happen, then a new complexity is introduced, a new mechanic that your protagonist can do, or you come across now flying enemies. And there's you don't just go straight in with the same level of intensity, you're being taught a new mechanic. And so when I'm teaching, this kind of approach in class, it's like, right, here's the mechanic that we're going to be using. Your partner's going to use this mechanic and adjust the intensity, but keep that mechanic. Like I say, like all I want you to do is use your legs to try and slip out of the heel and just hide your heel. Don't use your hands. That's a different mechanic. And your partner's going to adjust the intensity accordingly. And when you hit a level of intensity that is just enough for you, stay there. Work at that level. And it takes a really good partner to not then get bored and go, fuck it, let's change the complexity, or fuck it, let's make it even harder for him. And I always feel like I have to say it every single day. Your job is to make your partner better, not prove that you're better than your partner. And just keep working on that intensity. If they find that they max out your intensity, introduce a new mechanic, restart the intensity. And that can take so much time, to the point where you could leave a drill, like I said, like you said with the hiding the heel drill and escaping your leg. Leave it there. And to be a better partner, you're going to have to control that leg more effectively, and so you're by side effect picking up better leg control to work with the better defense. And that whole idea of a purple belt drill 10 times, I've got it now. No, you haven't. Not in this method. We can be here forever, and we can spend the next 2 months doing this, and you're going to be awesome at it. And that kind of like, again, it kind of changes our role from professor and person who's like giving out a guide to strategist, because I think also it's really important, again, to not overcoach. I mean that for everyone. Like, say if you're doing the game approach and you see your partner struggling, you want to kind of jump in and go, yeah, but you can just do this. And at that point, you've kind of like given them a guide to the game. Like, this is a cheat to beat the boss, instead of allowing them to like learn. And it's definitely a thing that I'm getting wrong, or have got wrong in the past. And it's taken me a while to get out of the habit of just going, no, I'm going to shut the fuck up. Like, if I'm going to teach you through the games I create, I don't also need to give you a guide. Like, I need to be able to introduce a mechanic, leave it like that. How it might take, if you can't solve it in 3 minutes, who gives a fuck? Like, we've got all class. There's there's no rush here. When you do solve it, you crack the problem from the puzzles that I've created for you. Now that's a skill that you can incorporate in rolling, such as, like I say, finding your way back to the false reap, etc. But I can't. You won't do that if I just give you the answer every single time.
It's the point of like this ecological approach, is that the main goal is skill acquisition. How do we get the skill to do that? And it was funny because it was interesting you saying with the puzzles and making this and that. So when I first started learning the defensive stuff, it was kind of during the pandemic era. And, I was doing some stuff with my daughter, and then, doing that. And then I started training with my buddies in the basement, and then I would just try the postures, right? And I would have my buddy, I say, okay, I'm just going to stay in these postures and move around. I want you to choke me as many times as you can. I don't care. And we would do that for an hour. This is an hour live training, right? And I was getting choked like crazy. And then, so the first, I was just getting choked. Then I come back next week. Now, guess what? I'm not getting as choked as much, and his stuff isn't working. Then the adaptation starts. Then I'm thinking, all right, I got this defensive stuff down. I'm untappable by this guy. Next week, he's doing different things because he has to get creative. And now he's choking me out again. And I'm like, oh my God. And then I would have to adapt again. But this was so much time in these positions. It is not really replicable in a straight drilling environment. It's just that level of that. And so when I take something like when I was teaching heel hooks in the saddle, I put them in the saddle, and I could have went for 30 minutes or more. This is how you hold it. This is how I hold it. I put my foot here, my hip here, my this and that. This is what you got to look out for. I didn't tell them. I said, hold it any way you can. If their leg keeps getting out, change what you're doing. This is on you. I don't want to, a good saying I don't want to rob you of your learning. Now, if you're doing it for a week or 2 weeks and you still can't do anything, maybe I'll pop in. or something's really frustrating you or whatever. Yeah, then I become that guide and I give them I say, hey, try this, or hey, or a better question, how do they keep getting out? And then they kind of have to work through that answer themselves, and you could give them some little knowledge, little tidbits here and there. But if they keep doing this, like I used to hold it more with, a foot to foot and my bottom knee was down, like just from the saddle with my leg across. And my buddy's flexible and he would just grab his foot and pull it across. And I'm like, okay, that's not working. So now I have to lift my knee up to close off that space. Do I really need somebody to tell me that? Like I can kind of figure that out myself. But if I go with somebody else, I can use that control for a different purpose because we all have different body types, different levels of experience and so whatever. It's just that's going to happen. But the main point is I got to control that hip. I can't let you get this escape. I have to keep your knee here, your knee line contained. That's the important stuff. So an idea I've been playing with in my head recently is, and I might have to do like the Chris Payne's whiteboard to kind of really explain it, but I won't do that right now. So, so if you look at, so I break it down like this. Okay, so we're going to leave the ecological constraint-led approach out of this on the level. So the highest level of expression of jiu-jitsu, which everybody likes, is sparring, right? So you spar. That's how you decide what do you do when you spar? You both are using all the tactics and stuff That's what you do. So you spar, right? And you decide what stuff I learned, is it going to be applicable? So sparring is the highest level. Now, what's underneath that? Positional sparring, right? It's kind of, you may have a goal in that, but generally positional sparring is still using what both people already know, right? So then the next level down would be drilling of a technique against a non-resisting opponent, and that's just a movement pattern. That's all it is, right? Drilling against a non-resisting opponent is a movement pattern. It may have some benefit early on, whatever. We don't have to break down all that. And then underneath that would be your technical demonstration. So you demonstrate it, and then they go drill it. And then one level below that is concepts. And if all you did was talk about concepts and never did anything else, you would know a lot of concepts, but you have no ability to apply it, right? So if I'm looking at that hierarchy, sparring up top, concepts on the bottom. So to me, there's a place in between positional sparring and sparring where you take concepts, you convert them to tasks and goals, and now you have the constraint-led ecological approach. It lies just under sparring and just above positional sparring. So that transfer, those concepts are going to transfer in that live environment. And now it's so easy to go to that next level of sparring and get that transfer to come. So you don't have to talk about concepts all day. Just convert them to tasks and goals. You don't have to do a million technical demonstrations of it to show how much you know. Because then you don't have to drill what I taught you, which is my version of what a technique is to my body type. And then you don't even have to do the positional sparring aspect. You go right to the constraint-led games approach. And now you take those concepts, convert it to tasks, put them in that live environment. You're pretty much almost to sparring. But to me, that's the Goldilocks zone of learning. If we're talking about, if you believe concepts are the thing that are important. To me, that's where they lie. And then when you go to spar, everything transfers almost so much quicker, in my opinion, from what I'm seeing. Like I say, anybody can train any way they want. This is kind of the way I'm doing it, what I've been exploring. So I like to hear it,
Again, Rob Biernacki said it quite well, is that the best product isn't always the one that kind of raises to the top. It's the one that kind of marketed better or whatever. And so, like I say, I think it's because I did ask about the anxiety of doing things differently, and is this the best approach? And it sounds, like I say, from people who study sports, constraint-led learning does seem to work better for sports, but unfortunately, jiu-jitsu, we still learn as a martial art with the mainstream model. I think I said one of the useful analogies that I've kind of been using recently is this idea of because most people have played soccer. I hope depends where you're from, but
Yeah, I
most of
played
the
a
world
little,
knows.
but more messing
Yeah,
around. Yeah.
um, but say I think a good example I've been using is the idea of a goalkeeper is right. You're gonna just I'm gonna keep sending it into the left hand corner for you to drill to block your body. I'm not gonna blast it, and I'm not just going to mildly pass it. I'm going to put it in enough, and you know where it's going, that you just have to block the ball with your body. That's the concept. Put your body in the way. And then I then adjust myself to keep sending it your way until eventually I'm trying to send it past you. So there's the game. I'm trying to like find a level like one above where you're at to put it past you. Sometimes I might not. And then once we've kind of like got to a point where we're both like trying and I'm not succeeding, I'll change it up and say, right, I'm going to put it into the right hand corner, or I might go up to the top left as well, and let's introduce something new. So it's still
Yeah.
a game. The concept really hasn't changed, but you're just slowly improving that person over time, and especially if there's like a skill disparity. And I think this is also one of the important ones. Is like I said about this, we're coming up with these strategies now of how we want to see people operate in jiu-jitsu, what we think is the best version of jiu-jitsu. And again, one of the analogies I've been kind of using is there has to be that continuity between drilling and sparring. There's, like I said, because there's that, where we're kind of teaching now is just below sparring. So to expect people to then just do something entirely different in sparring is like, what was the point in the class then? Really? Like, we're learning
Yeah.
this way to try and, but I think that also comes down to the people you're with. And the analogy I've been giving is, say if I'm playing football with my 9-year-old son and he's in goal, I've got a choice. I can either blast it past his frail body,
Yeah.
and potentially smash him up. I can kick it wide, and just send it, into the far end of the pitch, nowhere near him, or I can put it in accordingly to his level. So, I'm not going to blast it past. I'm not going to do the wrong thing and kick it wide. I'm going to kick it just enough that he might save it, he might not, and I've got to find that nuance myself to not go crazy on him. So that then changes. I think again, there's a good point that was made, is that most people, their version of competition is sparring, and that kind of creates quite a toxic environment sometimes. Is that, again, you've probably heard it saying, oh, there's this purple belt that smashes me up or whatever if you're a white belt, and you're like,
Yeah.
what's that purple? That's the adult smashing the ball at the kid. Like,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
saying doing something entirely different, like just playing in a completely wrong way compared to what we think is a good strategy. Like, my current thing is I want everyone to get up, and then someone going, yeah, but it's
Yeah.
a wide belt, I'm just going to play on my back. Well, you're just kicking it wide then. Like, the
Yeah.
strategy is you need to put it in the goal. Why are you sending it wide for him? And if you're not sending it
Yeah.
wide, you smash the teeth out of him. Like,
Yeah.
there has to be the adult in the room, and I think once you kind of, because that mentality can then go down into the gamified things that we're running, is that, again, like, you have people trying to prove that they're just better than their partner and start to smash the ball, quite hard at the goal, and not letting that person just save for a bit.
Yeah.
Getting that rally going, getting that repetition going, letting them, figure out how their body's going to move to block the ball in that way.
Yeah.
And I think that, playing a lot of this gamified stuff and watching people do it and then getting out of hand, like I say, because you made a really good point of, it sits just below sparring. And I think that it takes a good control of the mindset of the gym to not allow it to go into sparring, because then it's like, well, why are we doing this? I could have just said let's spar.
Yeah, no, I heard you talk about that, and yeah, I wanted to, yeah, my opinion with that too is like it depends on the level, depends on the people, and it depends if you set up the game constrained enough. If it's constrained enough, hopefully it doesn't go full sparring, but then I still have to step in and go, you guys are in
Yeah,
like a weird position, just reset, and they have to reset. But then
yeah,
sometimes at that point, depending on the level or the game itself, if that person, so if say you're playing like a mount game and you got both arms up, you're already in the worst possible spot. They got both elbows above their shoulders. Top player's job is just to pin one or two arms to the player's head and then just work from there and work for, say, a head and arm or any type. I don't even like the name submissions because then it kind of gets the bottom person to what they're defending. All I have to defend is an arm bar. I never do that. I never say, you're going to hold this person in this spot, try to pin both their arms, their one arm, and progress to what you believe you can know or get to. And if that person starts turning to his back and this and that, if you still have a good set of control, finish that round out. I don't care how much it keeps going and how much it's sparring, but if you have that dominant control, which we're all working for, let me see you go as far as you can with it. And once it gets broken, now we could reset back. So some games could be, you could take you 10 seconds to get out of that mount, or it could take you 2.5 minutes, depending on what you did, and now you switch back and the other person goes. And that's why I think it's good to actually switch your partners between drills also,
yes,
because you get the purple belt that just wants to smash the white belt. And then I'll tell you what, actually that's not bad sometimes. Sometimes you gotta get beat up a little bit, right? And then you get to switch and then go on. But then you got to tell that person, don't destroy him. Like, what are you doing here? You did it once. Let's try to work the game or challenge yourself and look for a different submission. Look for a different way to control them. Do something here because you know a little more. So it depends. The level of the room is always an issue, right? So you got to kind of figure out. But I think that's the culture of the gym.
yeah,
If the culture is destroy it any chance you get, it's going to be really hard to do some of this stuff with levels of disparity. But if you say, like, because I'll go sometimes with the teen or a white belt or whatever, and I'll tell them, and I'll get them in, and I'll be like, listen, I'm going to smash you now. I'm not really, but I want them to give that level of, this is going to get a little harder for me. When you get people that are it's a little easier to control, and then I'll give them a little wrinkle and throw something in that I know. But I just don't want people crushing people. But sometimes you're going to get crushed a little bit, and that's jiu-jitsu, right? And you kind of learn from there. Maybe that's that toughness, but also it can't be like that the whole round. It'd be too much, and then that person just loses all their motivation. You got to kind of know who you're dealing with, and that's what becoming a coach and knowing who your partner is, or knowing who your students are, right? You got to kind of know what's going on. And I'll tell people, hey, it's weird because it's hard to tell somebody to go 50% or 75% because they don't really know what that means. But you could maybe say something like, can you do that? Can you get to that position more efficiently? Can you get it without using all your energy? Because that's what we're looking to do, right? You take effective and turn it into more efficient, and then we keep building on there. So that's kind of it. But sometimes I'll let those rounds go on a little longer if those two people know what's going on and that control is still the main goal, right? In those ways, it depends. It depends on the situation and the game,
Kind of like say, it's a weird point to kind of make, and I think because we're both quite of the old school, and
Yes.
we were of the days of getting our head kicked in.
Yes.
Yes, I remember those days probably as much as you do.
Yeah.
And it was an environment of kill or be killed.
Yes.
Which I think it's easy for us to have a romanticized idea of it and going, yeah, but it eschews toughness and stuff like that. But I say part of me looking at maybe it's the dad instincts now coming out of, if I look at it from that perspective of if I'm playing football with my 9-year-old son, and I am blasting it through him relentlessly. He's not going to have fun. He's probably not going to want to play football with me ever again.
Oh yeah.
But also
No,
the idea
definitely.
that we are only as good as the people around us. And so if I want to get better at football, okay, yeah, I'm better than him now. But if I just spend week in, week out, just putting it at him at a decent rate, not smashing his little life in and not kicking it wide,
Yep.
eventually he's going to start saving my shots. Instead of me being impatient and going, right, he's the person I can learn to play football with. We haven't got many around here. It's just me and him. So
Yep.
I'm going to make him better. He isn't going to get better if I just fuck around with him or if I do things wrong. I need to play at a level that he's going to get better until eventually I can't. He's now 15 and now I can't play as much as I used to. Now I've actually got to try against him.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah. I'm
that is
definitely not
a
for. I'm definitely not the old school way anymore. That's how I came up in the
no.
'90s. It was pretty much you show up, you get beat down. If you come back, you're in. If you don't come back, you couldn't make it. Right? That's how it was. That's just such a old school way, and I don't even want to
Yeah,
do that
yeah.
type of style anymore. But so and then you look, and sometimes you have to switch the partners up, and you're like, listen, this person just doesn't know how to go with this lower belt. So switch up the
Yeah.
rounds, switch that person, maybe, then you go with them and then you kind of put it on them and say, hey, see, you got to learn how to play a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what we're
Yeah.
doing here. That's kind of how we're doing. We're trying to get better. We're all, yeah, like I tell all the students all the time, I go, we're not trying to bring up one or two people that compete. We're trying to bring
Yeah.
up the whole level of the gym, the whole level of the class, because that's how we're going to get better. And that's why I initially liked all the defensive stuff, because I think we're on the same mind of when we learn something new, we just kind of do it all in and then to see
Yeah.
where it goes. So like all I was teaching for defense was just defense, everybody's defense and offense constantly to make it harder to get tapped. So that brings up the level of the offense. So now
Yeah.
these games are the same base where everybody has a task, everybody has a goal. We're all playing, we're all switching with each other, we're all training. And then if you're a better person, you're going to get better because the other people start getting better also. So you're going to kind of have to calibrate to the room and what's going on. And as coaches, we have to keep constantly changing that, changing the game, changing little things, maybe switching the partners. The game should never stay the same. It should have a little tweak after time, not during like the straight class, but like you change a little bit, add a little complexity for the people that are a little better, take away complexity for the people not getting as much. Because you can have a really good person and somebody who's not that good. If it's constrained enough, it kind of evens it out. So that's kind of, so if you just say, hey, let's go spar, we know what's going to happen. You know, it's just going to happen. It's like thumb wrestling. If I get somebody my age who's never trained jiu-jitsu and we're exactly the same and we start thumb wrestling, it's such a constrained environment. I'll probably lose some and win some. Now we open it all up and say, let's wrestle and let's play jiu-jitsu, and he's never trained a day in his life. Then all my experience comes out. So we have to keep finding these constraint levels per that level of the person trying to learn.
No, completely. And you definitely, as a coach, have to kind of get that grip on the students so those toxic ideas don't just suddenly take over. Especially, like I say, because it's introducing a lot more. All the training is now. There isn't that dry drilling, and so there isn't those kind of hiding places where people can be like, fine, I'll go with the white belt. I'll just stay still. He can do 10 triangles on me. It's like they can kind of hide in those moments, but then the sparring comes out. And it's like, no, now he gets it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And because all the training is now in a gamified way, those people can now be almost let free. That they're in a dickhead can come out, and
Yeah,
it's up to us to kind of keep those kind of restrictions on and go right. It's This needs to change as a gym mentality now. Like,
Yeah.
it's not just me showing technique. It's like, right, we're a team, and we have to play these games because we rely on our partners to educate us. It's not just me showing you a technique and you just doing it 10 times each. It's no, we have to have good partners across the board. Otherwise, none of us are going to improve. If we have one person or people out for themselves. Again, like, it was interesting that Rob said of people can see sparring as their competition if they don't compete, or even if they do compete. Like, they compete against the other people in the gym. Like, oh, I need to beat this purple belt, or I need to beat that brown belt, or I need to like eventually catch that purple belt or blue belt. Is that already is that kind of problematic approach, I think, of them wanting to hold people down, almost hoard information for themselves, and only allow themselves to improve, which is just going to create a natural ceiling because your partners are never going to catch up with you.
Yeah. Yeah, they're always going to be better. They're always going to be the one dominating and this and that. So that's why it's up to the game designers or the coaches itself to find out where can we put these things, or you can tell that person, you pull them off to the side, and even when they go to spar, say, listen, you're great at smash passing and dominating. When you go into your round, I want you to, play guard. I want you to do something different. I want you to try to explore different things, just different ways of doing jiu-jitsu, because you need more of that experience in all these different in phases, which is funny because you're talking about the whole get up thing and you guys like don't do guard anymore. And I've stole that game from you that you taught at the no guard with the sweep and get up and this and that. Because I've always said when I'm training, don't give up easy sweeps. Don't give any cheap sweeps. Always pop back up. Well, what happens? Somebody falls over. It's like I've fallen and I can't get up and they just lay in guard, and it's like, I love guard. Like I'm saying, I'm an unapologetic guard puller. I'll do it all day, but that's for me. And I'm 48 now and that's just how I kind of play when I want to. I've been actually trying to do more passing now, smashing and doing all that stuff because I'm teaching my students more different things in these games. But I started implementing you're either playing guard or you're getting up. That's the two rules that I'm having right now. You're either, because don't accept side control, don't accept any of the other, because now when you're playing guard, and as soon as you feel there's no pressure and you're getting up, and even if you're playing on defense, those guard pulls are going to open up more because you're giving people two directions now instead of just always looking to get your guard back. A good player will be able to stop you from getting your guard back. But if you give them the get up, where you actually have to learn how to pin somebody now, oh man, like you're saying, like you've shown, like we were playing that game in your class, the no guard game in Maine, and everybody's scrambling and huffing and puffing and jumping around, and I'm like, all right, this is good. So we take that, implement it in my class, play a game, and now I could do that from everywhere though. Every game has the most important thing to me in jiu-jitsu now has been pinning or not getting pinned, because those were all the submissions and everything. End game leads from there. If you can't hold somebody down, what's going to happen? If you could get a sweep and you can't finish that sweep, it's not worth it. It's not worth a good sweep. So now people start understanding why you take care of that back leg, why you corral the back leg or the bottom elbow, and all these little things, all these invisible jiu-jitsu secrets that you can't drill that, right? There's never been a drill for those type of things. You have to play in these live environments. So you throw them in, and now you say, your job is just get back to your feet. You're not going to accept that guard. And now we can add more complexity, more games. I'll just have a game where somebody will be in butterfly guard, and they're just constantly trying to attach to a leg. The top person is just hand fighting, and there's always hand fighting, but you can't run away. because we want to play in that state. So deny attachments for as long as you can. And all you're going to do is deny attachments. And you should see that bottom player. They're trying to get De La Riva, reverse De La Riva, single leg X, and you're just denying. And then once you attach to a legit guard, then we can end the game. But now we can add on to that. Now that person, if they can sweep, you cannot accept the sweep. So that top person is playing in the game. They're denying attachments, denying guards, and they're denying sweeps. And then you just keep building on it. And now what's that bottom player learning? Entries, control, hand fighting, grip fighting, how to stop somebody who's going to run away. Once you do get that attachment, you got to yank and you got to hold on to that leg. And now we just keep building, and you can build it from the back, the front, whichever way you want. You're going to get there, you know? So why add in all the other stuff of the 15 De La Riva sweeps or the 18 single leg X entries? No, you're going to find those things. You're going to start seeing them, but do it with somebody live who's just restrained, you know? And when you're constrained that much, that purple belt is not as good as they are when it's live sparring. It kind of brings down their level because all they can do is hand fight. And if you just hand fight, somebody's going to get on your leg eventually, you know, or they're going to grab something or grab a wrist or whatever and kind of pull you in. So that's where I'm seeing a lot of the benefit of that and that transfer that I want to see, you know, in this gamified way we're talking about, you know. And then you could add in any rules you want. If your gym is no guard, that's how you play it. You know, that's Chris Payne's gym. There's the guys that never play guard. They don't accept it, you know. And then you can add that any way you want, you know.
I think one of the funny things about that is we're not playing guard currently because you don't need to. It will come back eventually, but it's like
yes.
So it's the same as with the defensive postures. So it's kind of like, again, one of those objectivity moments of, you know, before learning about running man and denying the armpit space and the red amber space or whatever, that people would pass guard, get side control, and do a side control escape. Then all of a sudden, when you start hiding the armpit, all of a sudden we didn't know how to take side control. You think, well, it's gone, and then you spend 6 months suffering, and there's no point kind of teaching side control because no one can find the fucker.
I haven't showed anything from side control forever. I haven't showed side control forever because it's not there a lot of times, you know? It's just not there.
Which, after like 6 months to a year of suffering and not finding side control, eventually, you know, the offense catches up with the defense, and now we're hunting more effectively, and now we're finding side control again. We're getting Kimuras, etc. But that was 6 months to a year where it didn't make sense because it wasn't a problem. And that's kind of the same point with guard currently, is that our ability to hold down someone whilst trying to pass and move to control position and defeat a defensive posture that they're doing is fucking awful.
Yeah.
And so that's what I mean. So it's like almost like we don't need a guard because we haven't maxed this out yet. When we've maxed it out, then absolutely. What did I just knock over? No. What am I on? Sorry, I was knocking something over then. Yeah, so it's like guard will come back, and like I said, the interesting thing is what you just mentioned about attachments. We're currently doing it because I had a bit of we're going through a motion as well, where I'm not teaching any submissions. I haven't taught any submissions in the gym since probably about 2 or 3 months. Just they haven't been there. But then it has the interesting issue of how do I teach, especially new white belts, how do I teach them submission defense if we're not doing submissions? And that was a bit of a stone in my shoe on that one. But the point that I've hit is, like I said, deny attachments. If they're approaching someone is, the same as the understanding of the defensive postures. You don't let anyone behind your head. You don't let anyone into your armpits. You don't let anyone behind your knees. The 3D control, I think Charles referred to it as, Charles Harriott. And if they are diligent and deny those controls, you can't develop enough of an attachment of a major control position to then go to a minor control position. And so it was kind of weird that it was one of my white belts. I was training with him, and I was trying to hunt for leg locks. The kid doesn't know what leg locks are. The kid doesn't even know what guard is. And I couldn't choke him. I couldn't go for leg locks on him from my back. And I was like, this doesn't make any sense, because he was just relentlessly hand fighting. He was like being very diligent of going, no, I'm not going to let you in those places. And I think it was actually something that Preet said years ago. He called it lean, as in it's something that you'll feel in combat sports, but not necessarily feel in jiu-jitsu. Where if a judo guy or a boxer gets hold of you, like a judo person especially, like you'll feel their weight on you. If a boxer, is approaching you, there's that metaphorical lean on you. Or if a wrestler grabs hold of you, you're carrying that wrestler. But if a jiu-jitsu person goes behind your neck or gets hold of you, you don't really feel the same level of threat. There's not that leaning pressure. And it creates those bad habits that we will let people into those places and not deal with it. 9 times out of 10, those grips that they may have may not lead to anything. It's just a grip that they have. But it's the 1 time out of 10 that you're going to come across some savage who can throw some very tight leg locks, and you go, shit, I shouldn't have let them have that grip. But if they stay diligent and just treat all grips as that 1 out of 10, then you ain't going to get shit. And now we're going through a phase of, well, no one can get anything off our backs. And like you said, no one can now get those De La Rivas or anything like that, because everyone's just really good grip fighting. And it's going to stay that way probably for the next year of we can't get guard. As soon as someone approaches, they're going to try and pass whilst heavily denying grips with hand fighting. You think, well, fuck, what's the point in teaching close guard or De La Riva or whatever if you can't even get near the fuckers to even establish a guard? Maybe in a year's time when we can hold them still for a second, maybe it'll make sense to teach submissions, but guards. But submissions, definitely, we can't even get a control position now. So what's the point in teaching anything submission based?
No, it's interesting. I do once a week. I go train with the comp class at our gym, and it's all the 20 and 30-year-olds, and they're they can wrestle and no-gi, and they got all the energy and all that stuff. So I'll roll with them, and I pull guard first, because I want to, because they're going to come into the guard. So so I give all, I play just guard defense, guard retention. I look for my attacks. I look to attach to something, and then they're, then they keep pressuring through. And then as they pressure through, I just pull my bottom leg out. I start getting the turtle, and I get up, and then I pull back to guard again. So, then the 200-pound blue belt, they this, that, they get frustrated, and they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, you got to learn to keep me down, because I'm either going to be playing guard or getting up. And I want them to do it, because then I want to get better at how I can get up too. So now there's already adaptation coming, and I'm seeing new strategies to hold me down and things to keep me where I need to be. And that's what I want to see. I want that adaptation, because what I've been playing with last week, and I'm going to do more this week, is, the Charles, the Charles frame that you guys do. I had this elbow frame and stuff. I don't know what to call it or whatever. But I'm like, okay, so how can I take this and not overly prescribe it, not give a billion details on it, and how can I functionally put this into sparring or into live rolling or into live training, into a game? So I started thinking about it, because I just think about things all the time, for some obsessive reason. So I'm actually want to start. And I've messed with it a little around. I'm like, how can I teach this to where I could get that quick transfer? Where can I get people using it? I don't want them to think of it as a technique. I don't want it to be a technique is a snapshot in time that works for that one time against that person. And we were not going to be able to duplicate it again. So I'll start in the full, a defensive guard structure against pressure passing, right? Because I want that person to be able to hold that person down in guard. So I'll have the good knee shield, the good frame, Everything's there for the bottom player. And now I'm only just start with the elbow frame on the person's neck. Just start there in guard already. It's there. You got your knee shield, you got the elbow frame, and you're already up on your elbow. So all you got to do is pull that bottom leg out. And now you're up on your feet, right? And you got the guard. So now that should be an easy game for that top person, the bottom player to win. Or if not, the bottom top player is going to adjust really quickly. Once the pressure's off, they're out. So now I'm going to back it up more. I'm going to take it from there and just keep backing up that elbow frame. And all you're going to use is guide them with your elbow frame to get out that bottom leg. So we're going to go from guard with the elbow frame. Then we're going to step it back some more. Maybe you already have, or you could go to reverse and start all the way on the bottom and have that elbow frame in from somebody almost on your side. And all you have to do is get up. But I can play with those ranges, at least 3 or 4 games between guard using it and on the ground. You could be on the ground already posted to start, or you could be in the guard with a leg already out. But that top person is constantly looking for that back leg because they're going to find out very fast that they're going to get up every time if they can't control you and if they take their pressure off. So now you're going to start playing with this frame, which is a technique. But I didn't have to tell you the million different ways to use it. This is when you use it. This is how you use it. Just use it here. And this will help you get up. And now you could do collar tie in front because if the person goes to the front end, that's a better grip to get up, right? So all you're going to be playing is front collar tie and inverted frame or elbow frame or whatever. That's your tool you're going to use. But everything else stays the same from guard to the ground. So that's what, and I'm going to run rounds like that. And I think that'll really show, this will give you the ability to get up when you need to. And then combine with your other ways to get up, scrambles or whatever. But not overly prescribe it. And one person job, get to your feet. Other person, do not let them up. Keep the pressure on the whole time. Because if you can't keep them down in guard, like you talk about, that person could stand up anytime they want if there's no pressure. So what's the point of showing guard if you can never hold somebody down in guard? So it gives the guard player an out now.
I think so. One of the interesting things from that, so when we come to teaching the elbow frame, is I found the moment that kind of made it click the best in the room was when I didn't show it from the ground. So what I did was I had everyone against the wall, like with their partner. So one person against the wall, one person on the outside. And I was talking about octagon control of, when there's judging criteria for MMA of, walking someone down and making them keep their back against the wall. And, because people kind of visualize that and go, well, I don't want to be there. Like if I've watched enough MMA to know that's a really bad place. I mean, you can, fight from the outfield, like absolutely, you can be a counter striker, etc. But as a game plan, no one runs back first into the wall. And then, showing the idea that, right, here's the frame because you want to keep them off you. And it's halfway to a pummel if the arm opens up. You just got to swing down, swing into the armpit. And then, that's that's where the elbow frame would kind of fit in there. And then I said, right, well, person on, doing the octagon control, how would you keep them against the wall? And they walked each other down and kept their arms really close down without even me mentioning it, and like denying grips and stuff. And I was like, it's funny that you did that. And I didn't even have to mention it because you knew they were already trapped. They were against the wall. You had octagon control. So you didn't have to overcommit your grips to take extra control. You knew you already had them. And then I said, right, well, just apply that idea to the ground. Like if your back is on the floor, your back is against the wall. You want to get off the goddamn wall. Like, unless you've got a counter-striking idea. And you're either going to create a frame to push against them or create an attachment to reverse the situation and put them against the wall, aka a sweep. And if you're the person on top, you want to keep them against the wall because if they get off the wall, they're after you. You've lost your octagon control. So how are you going to keep them there with an intensity and also deny them grips? Because if you allow them to get their own grips, they could reverse this situation. And It then became a lot of like, hand fighting, defeating the elbow frame, try and make sure you didn't allow for a pummel, allow for an underhook that just is going to reverse it. And that's it. The trying to say to people just stay on top, etc. It was like, okay, yeah, we'll stay on top. But then giving them that visualization of, no, it's octagon control. You don't want your back against the wall, because then you've limited your operating room. Even if someone isn't physically controlling you, you're kind of trapped.
Yeah.
And no, that's just saying that now. Elbow frame comes directly in, and people, it's like floor is lava. The second their ass hits the floor, and not only, and also it was like it changed the angle a little bit on how they use the elbow frame. So instead of, I said, if you've got the choices, you're gonna have to swing off the wall, circle off left or right, or if you could, you'd fly, and flying is the equivalent of like swimming away with the elbow frame. But either way, you're gonna have to get your back off the wall. How are you gonna do it? And cutting angles a lot, try and just like, push the head in so you could then circle your back off, which is now gives context to the elbow frame, which instead of just like, right, put your elbow here. And again, it's,
you need context. You need that.
Yeah. Your hierarchy of where things fit together. Like you go, right, you almost you get given information and go, right, where's it slot in? Right, it's in the technique, so I need to figure out the concept for me to then create the ladder of this expression. So I've been given the technique, the elbow frame. What's the concept that kind of created the elbow frame that sits underneath it? Cool. Now I understand those two. How am I going to gamify it? Create a positional sparring, and then it can go into sparring. And we've created a continuity that's now going to carry on all the way into competition. And so that recall is just there all the time if people need it.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah. No, we only played with it a little bit on Thursday. I was just playing a little bit with my teen class. I love training with the teens because they just want to go. They just want to train, right? So we're just doing it, and I was like, and I even told them before. I said, listen, we're going to experiment. This is, we're just all training partners. We're just going to experiment. We're going to play. I want to play with this elbow frame. If you got a great idea, tell me. We're going to talk about it, and we're just going to go. And they were getting up from it. Some were struggling, some were not, some were popping out. You're going to get it. I said it's going to be messy. That's I even said it in my Globetrotters class. I'm like, embrace the mess. The mess is training. If you want everything to look perfect, that's just for me to look at a perfect class. But that's not where the jiu-jitsu is going. So we're playing, and then we spar afterwards. We go I like to have sparring in every class at the end because it goes right into it. And then I jump in. If somebody doesn't have a partner, I start rolling with them. And I'm like, take the kid down, we're moving aside. And then guess what I felt? I felt that elbow frame in my neck. And I'm like, this is great. I'm like, there you go. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't, amazing. It was whatever, but it was there. So that transfer is already starting. And then it's going to start cleaning up as you keep putting these concepts out there. But next week I'm not going to go, all right, forget that elbow frame. Here's a new way to get up. You need time in that, but you can take these little concepts. You could create as many games as you want, but if they all have the same goal and whatever, you're going to get that, reps without reps, repetition without repetition. They talk about in the ecological approach all the time, and you're just going to put it in there. So now I get that. And now, hey, can I add that into more situations? It's almost kind of like, that's what I like about the defensive postures. A lot of them at the time when I was doing them more, it's like you got one posture that kind of answers 15 different things. Instead of having to learn 15 escapes, just, Preet will he talks about at the Globetrotters camp, I want to just write mini baby bridge for all my classes, but they won't let me do that. So he just has to take the mini baby bridge and put it into Kimura defense, Anaconda defense, whatever. But it's all the same. You're basically just creating that gap. You're making that space. You're getting your head in whatever the mini baby bridge is to you, how it works. But that's with these elbow frames or these different concepts is you're teaching those. You're letting them learn how to express it. not how I would express it. I'm not the same as you, So
Yeah.
we go in, and now we apply it, and we find that sweet spot, which I think is the sweet spot, that constraint led, whatever way you want to do it. And now you're going to get that transfer, that learning, and you're going to put it there, and you're going to see it go right into sparring. I don't know how many times over the years, like, I've taught people an arm bar from close guard on their first, second day. Because that's like you want to show them something cool, right? This is how you arm bar your friends in the living room or something, and you like grab the collar, you pull the head down. Now the way I would show an arm bar is I would put you in I think I usually call it trap in the shoulder. I think the Danaher guys call it like a top lock, where you have you have the guard, you have the one shoulder exposed, trapped, and just keep that guard. I'll put you in that. That's the almost end game, where all you got to do is put the leg over the face, and now you can start attacking arm. But I'll put you in that top lock, or whatever you want to call it. You got to hold it as long as you can. So what's that top person going to do? They're either going to shimmy their elbow out, they're either going to press down into you, they're going to make it miserable for you. But now if you learn how to control that thing, and once you mastered that game, now all you got to do is move the leg over the face. And now the arm bar is there. And now we're going to back it up every way, like the triangle. Kind of like how you would talk about teaching the triangle. Just keep backing it up on those steps. So that's all we're looking for, and you could take it with a shoulder frame, with leg locks, with wrestling, with, whatever you want to do. We can constrain them everywhere we want. And we could put you in all these different grappling situations, and it's going to add into your whole understanding of the foundation of grappling, in my opinion. And it's going to cut down the time. I think that's the biggest thing. It cuts down the time. That's what I'm looking for. I don't want people to do 20 years to learn what I learned.
Completely. Again, I think I've said it enough times, is that if I teach you how I was taught, it will take you 14 years to get to where I am now. And that seems woefully inefficient.
And that's if they were 6'3", whatever you are. Maybe they'll get there in 14 years. Maybe they won't. Maybe it'll take them 20. Maybe it doesn't know, because they're not you. They don't have your athletic background. They don't have your skill level. They don't have any of that,
But that's our jobs, I guess, is to find better and more efficient ways of getting people to that level as fast as possible, and hopefully they can overtake us. And it was interesting as well, this it all kind of comes around to that. I said that we make our training partners better and try and find the best ways of getting them to that point. I think the smashing the ball at my son really helps kind of visualize that. With these games that you're making, because I know you started to put out a lot more content online, how often do you post these games up for people to like learn from? Because I say it's all well and good hearing these descriptions online, but if people are really interested in speeding up their jiu-jitsu, where can they see more of this?
I've been trying
from.
I've been trying to do more on Instagram, and I want to make them short and quick, which is Instagram, which is how I would explain them anyway. Like, if you watched my class, I'm not giving you a crazy amount of description. So that, I put the body lock pass in. I gave 3 games, and that's pretty much how much I would probably tell you. And you have 1 or 2 goals, so you pop this in, and now you're just going to play that and play it till you get bored, or switch it up and switch to another game that may be similar, may not. It doesn't matter, because you're going to keep playing these. So now I'm trying to, when I go to my buddies on a Tuesday here and there, we'll be in his basement, and then I can kind of film something really quick. If they want to do something, then I can say, all right, let me just see if I can make something out of that. Because once I post those videos, then I start getting the comment, I get some comments and this and that and likes, but then I'll get the message on the side, a bunch of them. Hey, that's a great game. I tried it out in here. I love it. Hey, I'm going to try this one out. Where can I get more of these games? Do you got a game for mount? Do you got a game for back? Do you got a game for this? So I'm like, okay, so there is some value in it. And it's funny. It's like, if I wanted to be a super Instagram guy, I would put the craziest moves I know. but that's the one that gets all the things. I want to put down the stuff that I like to do. Like, cause I don't care if I got so many followers compared to whatever. I'm not doing it for that. I just want to put out stuff that I think is valuable to me. You could go online and find the 18-step move, put in on everywhere.
Yeah.
I want to kind of show you how I'm training, something different, because I love talking about this stuff. I love engaging in it. I like when it's a good conversation. I won't say, hey, this is garbage, what you're doing, what my way is the best. No, that the traditional way, it works. Whatever way you want to call it, it's worked over the years. I just want to find a more efficient way for me and my students. And there's a lot of smart people putting out some good stuff. If you read those books, if you watch what they're doing, you're going to pick up some stuff. And like we talked about before, my job as a coach is to keep getting better as a coach. I'm not going to teach you. I've heard you say it where the people will message you like, hey, I'm still you changed the way you did it. It's like, well, yeah, you should be kind of changing it over the time. You'll learn a little more,
Yeah.
They get mad at you. They're like, hey, Chris, that stuff you said doesn't work anymore. Well, it still works. I just found a little better way to do it, or I changed my philosophy.
Well, it's like this idea that, if over the space of 3 years, someone can easily go from, blue belt to purple belt, even white belt to purple belt if they work hard. Well, why can't we improve that amount over the same amount of time? Like,
oh yeah,
how I was coaching 4 years ago when How to Defend Everything came out, I was a white belt coach. I'm now more of a blue belt, purple belt coach. Why can't I change up my mind as well? Now, if we were to compare how we rolled 3 or 4 years ago, I imagine it'd be very different to what we do now. And I think that's one of the downsides sometimes of putting content online.
Yeah.
Is it creates that photograph of your jiu-jitsu and people can kind of go off that. Like, yeah, it was correct at the time. We know more now. And I get that, I know Preet says it a lot with his defensive BJJ. You have to kind of keep up with him to see what he's doing to kind of get the latest ideas floating around his head. And, I can tell that you are very much of the mindset of always thinking about how to make your jiu-jitsu better. Like, even when you, like, say you're doing stuff in the yard, just like, right, how do I coach better tomorrow?
Yes.
And so keeping up with what you do, like I say, it's almost like important. Like we kind of jump in and do these conversations once a month of like, right, what's changed now? Because if you're thinking about it as much as I think you are, things probably change quite fast.
Yeah, that's why I love. I actually, I love listening to your podcast because you guys are constantly talking about updating stuff, constantly changing things. You'll admit this wasn't as good as that, and now I'm doing this, and it's like that's kind of the hello. That's kind of the fun part, like it's I've learned more. Like, it's funny, like you want to get to that black belt level, whatever that is. I don't even know what that means anymore. I don't even know how to like rank people anymore. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't make any sense, but we have to do it and we have to whatever. But since I've been a black belt I've been doing this 20-something years, my black belt was way later because I wasn't doing the gi. But in this last 3-4 years, 4 years I've been a black belt. I've learned more than previously. And usually are people like, they get the black belt and they're like, well, now I'm set, I'm good, I'm going to teach what I know, and this is what I'm. No, you gotta learn more. You got to keep going, and that's what makes it fun for me, and then I want to be able to add on, but it's these little different things we pick up. And I like, look at Preet. He went from Hawking to 2.0 to the Running Man's at 2.0, and he keeps changing it. You're changing your whole structure all the time. Because you'll see these as the game gets better, but like, look at the current state of jiu-jitsu. It's not what it was 5 years ago. It's not what it was 2 years ago. Craig Jones literally made a living off just leg locking people from saddle. Now he's standing up more and doing this and doing that. Gordon was leg locking everybody, then he started passing everybody. You have to keep changing what you're doing. When the Menda brothers, when Hoffa was just berimboloing literally everybody with the same berimbolo, he would berimbolo everybody. And then people got a little better, and then now he's going to the crab ride. and the X on the leg and the posture this way. And they didn't do it just by learning a new way to do it. It emerged from their room probably getting better, people they competing against getting better, and now they have to adapt to it, you know? So that's how I am as a coach now. I have to keep adapting to what I'm seeing, what information is available. We got more information now than we ever had, and we're going to keep getting more information, and you got guys like Greg Souders coming in, and he's doing his thing, and you got those people coming up, and then you got, B team guys doing it this way, and the gi guys are doing it this way, and, Marigali, he's learning no-gi stuff. The guy was one of the best gi players out there. And now he's like, well, I got to kind of figure out how to do this no-gi stuff. It's different, That's the fun part, That's the fun part of jiu-jitsu. I'm not teaching kata, from my karate days. I'm not teaching chun-ji and whatever I learned as whatever, but those katas were passed down for so long. I don't want the jiu-jitsu kata, I want the live training and the adaptation to keep forming. And the games help. I think what you were talking about, if you just drilled all the time and that one guy was always better than them, those other people can't catch up because because if everybody's learning the same stuff, it's just the same drill, the best guys are going to go up and the bottom guys are going to stay where they are, and they make it a little increment. But now you throw in all the live training and the different aspects and the self-learning and that autonomy and all that other fun stuff, you're going to raise that room up, and now it's going to kind of level out a little more, It'll make that person who was good, you make him a little better. And then he goes to another gym or a competition, and he's probably going to do better,
Cool. Yeah, and it's funny. We've got to the point where we've condensed everything down to pretty much a handful of ideas and just repeating the same ideas. And I don't know how to rank people anymore, like you said, because I've got white belts I can't not deal with, and even thinking that out loud, that it shouldn't be that way. I should be able to clown every white belt that ever walks in front of me, as long as they're not some sort of D1 wrestler. I should be able to clown every white belt, and to have white belts that I can't deal with because it boils around back to, I say, trying to find these concepts and create these games to transfer this kind of base knowledge across, what constitutes as advanced or beginning technique. But we condense it down to here the defensive ideas. Don't let anyone into these 3D spaces behind the head, armpits, behind the knees. So always deny, either by hand fighting or blocking those places. If your arse hits the floor, either use hard frames to stop them from getting past you, or get the fuck up. And if you're on top, treat them like it's octagon control. Either pin them against the wall, or crowd the space that they can't get off the wall. But either way, you're keeping them against the wall. You're not letting your own back hit the wall. And just that alone, and creating games around that in circles, and working on that basic movement repeatedly, I've never felt more painful white belts. If I was to put myself at blue belt against these guys, I would be like, nah, that guy's not a blue belt. He's moving really crap. And it was weird that I actually had a guy come down to the gym last week. Wanted to do some privates. Been training at a more established franchise, shall we say, of gyms, and was still a white belt, but was having issues learning the sequences, as he called them. And you say it's the kata, as it were, and remembering the sequences. And I say it's that still exists. And as much as you say, that people still learn from the mainstream model and have success of it, I don't think they do as much as we think they would or should. I think it's the amount of people that I hear like, oh yeah, but I learn better from conceptual teaching. I think we all fucking do.
Yeah. And what's the thing in all of life? I don't care if it's a job, if it's whatever. What does everybody always say? Oh, I'm more of a hands-on learner. Of course you are. Like
Yeah.
you got to touch it. You got to get in it, and that's why when I went down to Greg's gym and I said with the ecological stuff, I go it works so good with grappling or jujitsu because it's probably the best athletic event to do this with. Because guess what? You're always in contact with the person.
Hmm.
It's not basketball. It's not soccer. It's not baseball. You're literally grabbing a person almost the whole time. And I can only move based on what you're doing to me and what I'm doing to you. How can I teach you that in a technique, step by step? You do this, I
Mm.
do that. How can I possibly do that? And then what we see from the traditional model, people that are really good are generally the ones that are good at athletics, they're good at sports, or they drill and spar all the time anyway. So that
Hmm.
kind of, they're going to get to that top level doing that. But what's the level of everybody? What's the level of the white belt?
Yeah,
What's the
yeah,
level of the whatever? And I think we're saying with the ranking thing is I'm kind of seeing it now where we're kind of turning more into wrestling where they don't really have the ranks. And it's funny
yeah,
because it's
yeah,
like, like I'm saying, I don't know how to rank somebody. And the old way of jujitsu was pretty easy. You'd go, well, if he's beating up all the white belts, he's probably a blue belt. And
yeah, yeah,
when the blue belt's beating up all the blue belts, now he's a purple belt, right? That's how we kind of did it here and there, or
yeah,
somebody could
yeah.
come up with a curriculum and whatever that is. Let's just get down to grappling and see what we got. And I think it's more fun. Like, I don't even, we do a lot of no gi. Our gym has switched more to no gi, and we don't even care about rank as much anymore. We're just kind of training. What's the point of this rank? You know,
No,
at this
and,
level.
and I think that circles back round to creating that competition in the gym. Like you see someone who's like a purple belt and go, "Oh, I'm going to compete against that purple belt because I want to beat up that purple belt." And then people at those rank thinking that their rank only stays that way if they don't get beaten up by lower ranks. So
Yes.
that's why they then smash up the blue belts and the white belts because they think there's no way I'm going to let you get anywhere near me because it's going to make other people think I'm not as good. Instead of we're just a team. Like the
Yeah.
ranks are there for
For
competition purposes,
competition or yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
if not,
Yeah. Because it's if not, it's Highlander style, right?
yeah,
You beat the person, you take their belt, and you take their rank. That's what people want to do. But let's not even worry about that, and let's just train and try to get better. Everybody.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And it was funny. I think Christian actually did one of those uh, inflammatory conversations, and usually gets me involved somehow.
I wonder
Um,
why.
as at the main camp,
Mhm.
saying what are the point in belts sometimes. I get it for competition purposes, but they do more harm than good uh,
Yes.
in a gym environment. And I think the fun one he also mentions about the whole stripes on a black belt. Like, does that make any sense? It's like rings on a tree. Like, okay, I've been a black belt for like 6 years. I have now two stripes. And he
Yeah.
said the only reason we have those is just so older, unathletic black belts can still have meaning when they can't
Yeah.
fight
Yeah.
anymore.
That just means you're an old
It's,
black belt, right?
yeah, exactly. Like I know you're better than me, young, athletic, competitive black belt, but you still have to bow down to me because I have more
Yeah.
stripes, even though you could
Yeah.
kick my
That's
ass.
yes. That just
Um,
makes all the belts just make a really bad hierarchy and looking down at people and all that other stuff. Like I'm saying,
yeah,
I treat the teens I train with as just my training partners sometimes,
yeah, yeah,
it's more fun. It's a better environment in my opinion. And you just go, like the white belts, the blue belts, or whatever. Who cares? Let's just
yeah,
train. To me, the best part of jujitsu is training jujitsu, right? So
yeah.
let's just go and train and see what we can come up with. Be creative and explore, you know?
No, exactly. I think that's a topic for a whole other day
Oh
about
yeah.
dismantling the hierarchy, dismantling the patriarchy of
The
jiu-jitsu.
the Patreon. Yes.
We can jump into that one. But yeah, I think it's quite important, like I say, to you are becoming quite prolific with your content when it comes to talking about these new training ideas. And it's one thing that I am super aware of is that, especially with putting out so many podcasts, I mean, you can't actually see it, but I'm actually building a. If anyone's watching this on YouTube, I'm actually building a small matted studio behind me with lighting, so I can actually record more things, and not in the gym. I can actually record them at home, which means hopefully my output should be catching up pretty soon. Podcasting is easy. I just have a microphone and headphones, but recording content, unless I'm in the gym, which is about an hour away from where I live, it's a pain in the ass. But Rob is making way more content than I am right now, and you are putting out these games and all these kind of ecological constraint-led games, something I need to be doing. You are doing them, so I think I will put a link to your Instagram in the description wherever people can find this. So if you are listening to this via Spotify or Apple or Google, go find it on YouTube. The description should be in there for a link to Rob's Instagram, because he is creating these videos of these games. So if you are interested in learning jiu-jitsu this way, or you're having issue with learning jiu-jitsu via the mainstream model and sequencing, etc., if you have a willing training partner, or you are a coach and you're looking at changing things up, Rob's got some good games coming out of it, and I will put your details on for people to find that. Will you be releasing anything soon? Are you going to be releasing any longer form stuff like on YouTube?
Well, first off, thanks for saying all that. Yeah, thanks for saying all that. And I always like to say, I'm just learning this stuff too. Like I'm actually being an ecological coach myself. I'm failing, I'm doing some success, I'm trying different things, and I want to see what kind of works. I'm no expert. I'm just trying different things, and I just love trying to learn. And so right now it's the Instagram stuff. I keep batting in my head, hey, should I do some YouTube stuff, make some longer form stuff? I think that's kind of the natural progression of things, but I kind of like the Instagram thing because it's kind of quick right now and easy.
Yeah.
And I can kind of get myself going with it. So, and just, training my students and training at the gym, maybe I'll do some more content from the gym, maybe some more live games of the people actually doing it, or some rolling just to kind of throw out ideas, because the nature of this stuff is I'm not teaching you a prescriptive technique. You're actually take this, you can use it as a starter game, you can adjust it any way you want, and just build yourself from there, and just kind of do it. And I'm going to be in Arizona in November for Globetrotters, and hopefully I'll get a couple classes. They're going to be all game based, of course. And then I'll probably, if they're asking for any talks or anything like that, I'll probably do like an ecological talk. I did one at Maine, which kind of stunk because it was the same time as your Winter Soldier class, so I didn't get to see it. And and obviously I didn't think anybody was going to show up, but like 15, 20 people showed up, and I got to like ramble for an hour, so that was cool because I'm trying to learning how to do this public speaking stuff as much as I can. This is we're all kind of learning how our ideas kind of come together and what we could talk about. So that went really well. So that's it. I'm just going to keep trying to do that and see where it goes. And I just love training. So, and I like to show stuff. If people get some value, I get messages all the time. Hey, that was a great game. This was a whatever. I love hearing stuff like that. It kind of gives you a little kick to keep doing it.
Yeah, completely. Well, what I'll do is, like I say, I'll put the links up for everyone to go find these games. I say it's interesting how you are creating this new platform and putting so much effort into it. And it's funny that you mentioned the Winter Soldier class. Don't worry, it's out of date already. I'd ignore it. It's already out of date. Anyone who went to that class, sorry, I know better now. It's been 5 weeks. I'm allowed to say it's out of date.
Man. The Winter Soldier got put back on ice.
He did. Yeah. I mean, I'm at the Heidelberg camp in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it is, and I'm redoing How to Defend Everything, like 3 or 4.0 by now.
Yes.
So we'll see if that gets recorded and what people think about that. But it'd be interesting as well, because I guess Instagram does allow you to keep this as a history. So it'd be interesting to see where your games go if you repeat games in the future and they just change up and go, I don't do that anymore. It seems silly. Thank you for staying. Oh,
No, I'm good.
Keeping me up
Keeping
to
you
have
up.
this conversation. Like I said, it'd be interesting to kind of keep doing these follow ups and having checking back in with you and seeing like what's kind of come out of these games. If you change how you do games, changing how you train in the gym, and hopefully if I can get back out to the States at some point this year, we'll have to just do like a games day. We'll just record a bunch of stuff and put it online, just like what we
Oh yeah,
what we can kind of come up with. Maybe
yeah,
I'll see if I can make it to Arizona. Who knows?
that'd be great.
Is that we're broke? No, we're good. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you for agreeing to this on such short notice as well. Like I say, it was especially with the amount of stuff you've been putting out. I was like, right, we need to get talking because I'm interested to see how much things have changed since Maine in 5 weeks. But thank you for your time, Rob, and I look forward to either speaking to you again soon, really soon, or I'll see you in America, I'm sure, at some point.
Thanks for having me on, Chris. Anytime. Love talking to you.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, dude. I had to go and get
Thank
some
you.
sleep. It's like
All right.
I've
Yeah.
got for 4 hours.
Oh yeah. Go
Oh
to sleep,
no,
bro.
this is a bad choice. I shouldn't have said
Yeah.
12 o'clock at night. Hey, you free at 12 o'clock to have a conversation? It's only 7 o'clock for you.
Yeah. Yeah. We could do
Yes, I
earlier
need to-
next time for you. I like saying I like Rustic Chris, which doesn't exist.
No, he doesn't exist. He is a myth. Like,
Yes.
I've got a bunch of other guys coming on soon. I keep picking Americans. Maybe you guys are interesting. Who knows? Don't tell the Brits I said that. They're all
Yeah.
boring. Thank you, dude. It's been a pleasure.
All right, brother.
Have a good night.
You too.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.